So, hello, I'm here today with Caroline Hunt, and she's the founder of Emerald Starfish, which, as she has told me to describe it, is an outsourced recruitment department. And where Caroline and I came across each other was because, as you will all be finding, and as I am finding, and we all know, it's incredibly hard to secure talent at the moment, and that's the big debate. And we've talked about that in the past before, so we know what we're dealing with there. And there's a tendency to go to the recruiters, and that's fine. And recruiters do an amazing job. But there's a sort of a feeling that there's a churning going on, and there's a certain amount of sort of, because they're so busy as well, there's a lack of attention and so on. And what Caroline's business is they act like your own in-house recruitment department, but you can buy them in. And that really resonated with me. I've referred Caroline to 2 or 3 of my clients, and I think they're doing really well, and it's working ever so well. So it could be a route. And I just wanted to get Caroline on here and have a chat with her so we kind of explore a little bit. So welcome, Caroline. Thank you very much for joining the call.
Thank you for having me.
I may have just got that wrong. So can you tell us what it is, what service Emerald Starfish provides?
So you're spot on. So what we do is we act as if we are a company's outsourced recruitment department. So we do everything that an agency does, but we do it from the client side. So we don't have a pool of candidates. We go out to the market to find the candidates for you. And then we just work that much more closely with our clients to ensure that we're getting the right people for their roles. And that is all sorts of things, whether we're offering psychometric testing or whether we're doing the first stage interviewing or holding managers' hands throughout the process to make sure that the momentum, which is really, really important at the moment, is kept up during the recruitment process so that things happen in the order that they should. Because one, we want to secure the right candidates for our clients, but also we want to make sure that we don't lose candidates as well by the process being too long or too clunky. And it's about representing our clients so that candidates have a really good candidate experience, so that even if they're not successful, if they were turning around to somebody else and talking about client X, they would say, I would really like to work for them. I missed out on a great opportunity, rather than thinking actually this wasn't right for me at all.
Fantastic. So that's so clear. It's, the recruitment department in your business that you'd always wanted, but you're buying it in on a need basis. And it's interesting that you talk about the kind of momentum, because I know that candidates they want really quick decisions now, which when there's a lot of demand, they want quick decisions and progress. But also this idea of, I think it's great that you pick up a load of that heavy lifting that we get stuck with as managers, that we're not qualified to do, that we could do just with common sense, but don't have time to do and can't prioritize. And then the process stalls, and then we lose candidates, and we lose, as you said, momentum. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? What's the stuff that you're lifting off your clients that typically is bogging them down?
So if you think about it, if you've got a vacancy in the business, you actually just want one person for that, but you don't want to see a pool of one person. You want to see a pool of, say, 60 people. But of those, you've got to appreciate that 59 of them aren't going to be right or not as good as the one that you're going to offer for. So we will do a lot of the heavy lifting around sifting those candidates to make sure that we're finding the right person, and interviewing those candidates again down to make sure that the managers who are then making the final decision are spending quality time with the best candidates, not spending huge amounts of time dealing with mediocre candidates who don't fit the profile of what they're looking for. And it's a bit of sort of getting them to see the wood for the trees, so that they can just focus their efforts on the best candidates for the roles.
Fantastic. So every client I've ever worked with thinks their business is unique, in which case they might turn around, and they do, and say, well, you don't really know our business. How can you help? What's the answer to that?
It's about spending time with them. It's about understanding kind of the stuff that they're doing and the stuff that's out there. But also, we would never just put in one candidate to a client, we like to give a shortlist, and our shortlist is basically, we feel that of these up to 5 candidates, they can all do the job. We think that they fit the values and the culture that we know about of the company, but actually there's a piece where we do step away and say, and now it's your choice, which of these will fit best with the team, has that kind of technical ability that we can't grasp, kind of from our position. So that's kind of what we do.
And so I don't know if you can give us some examples, but there are some spaces you work in particularly regularly, and you've also got a few kind of slightly weirder, more esoteric types of business. Not weird at all, obviously very professional businesses, but and I wouldn't want you to name names, but do you have any areas you work in particular? I mean, particularly our space, and we tend to talk to service businesses and smaller businesses.
Yes, so I would say that we're specialists within the SME and the SMB market. That's kind of where we can really make a difference, because we understand, that a job profile is not necessarily set in stone. That actually we need people who can flex, can pick other things up, are looking for longer term progression, but doesn't necessarily need the job titles, for example. We've done a lot within financial services, which obviously sort of fits that service-based thing, simply because we did one piece of work really well, and that person recommended us into all sorts of, and they carried on doing that. So I'm just looking at the board at the moment. We've got a whole raft of things. We do quite a lot within pharmaceuticals, and sort of laboratory testing equipment. We've got some hydraulic lift manufacturer at the moment. We've got an HR company, consultancy, and then we do quite a lot with sort of marketing type roles. We've worked with various agencies before as well. So, I quite like the, and they're not weird, but that kind of different thing, because it's learning something new and understanding kind of what makes them tick, and how we can help them find the right people for the role. So, I like that.
And I didn't for a second suggest that any of your clients were weird. And nor did you. Well done. No. So, but the point is, this model is a bit agnostic in the sense that there are the professional disciplines of recruitment and those skills, and then there is the knowledge around the specific requirements of a candidate when you get right down to past tick listing of, check boxing of people's talents. It then still comes back onto the company, because in the end they have to make that judgment call, don't they? So it doesn't really matter the vertical for you, because you are applying the disciplines of recruitment rather than the disciplines of their vertical.
Yes. So, I mean, my background was very specific, recruitment. I did pharmaceutical hospital sales specialist. So it was really, really niche. And actually, when I set up the business on my own, I took a definite step away from that. And actually what it means is that if you've got a company that's looking, so for example, one of our clients at the moment is looking for a marketing manager and some sales representatives and an administrator, rather than going to 3 different agencies with those, they've brought them all to us, because we can look at all of those. And that whole company culture piece is the same across all of the roles. They're just, it's just different skills and things that we're looking for within that.
Brilliant. Okay. So, and you've talked about the size of business, which is typically smaller businesses. But so it begs the question of how people engage with you. So if they say this sounds interesting, but we need some people soon, what sort of engagement do you typically have with your clients?
So, I mean, obviously it's a discovery meeting to start with, and there tends to be sort of 2 ways that people sort of come to us. One is that they want a particular role filled, or they have got a whole need, so they know that they need so many heads over the next year. And then there's a piece around, okay, well, let's plan for that. So rather than it being reactive, we're looking at proactive recruitment and saying, okay, well, in June of this year, we know that we want 2 heads into the business, and therefore the work that needs to be done before that tends to be kind of before.
And that's absolutely, I'm just thinking about my clients, that's classically the stuff that nobody does because they're too busy to recruit the people they need, let alone think about recruiting people down the line. So getting ahead of that is invaluable all in itself, I think.
It is, and there is a piece which again managers tend to be a bit scared of, where they look at their organization and they know that there will be some people who will move on within that business, but they prefer not to think about it because they might not. Whereas actually, if they know that they've got somebody who's particularly ambitious and looking for experience within a different area that they can't offer, then if we know about that kind of earlier on in the year, we can be looking out for those candidates. So for some of our clients, we call it a bench of people who would be suitable if these positions came up.
And that kind of comes to how you charge, because your model isn't like the recruiters who charge a percentage of salary when they recruit. Could you explain how your financial model works?
Yes, very much so. So obviously my background is as a standard recruiter, and we used to charge, between 15 and 20% of someone's take on salary. And actually, I never felt that was very fair, because what happens is you load up the money on those where you are successful. So because say you've got 4 vacancies and you fill one of them, then you charge that person for the 3 that weren't successful effectively, if that makes sense. Whereas what we do is we charge based on our time. So we know how long it takes to find somebody at whichever level, and therefore we charge based upon that. So it's very transparent. From an SME and an SMB point of view, it makes a lot of sense, because we're not, if you choose to then negotiate, particularly at the moment with salaries being quite volatile, our fees don't change, because it's not taking us any more work for that. So that's what the model is based on. And actually that's very much my why, in terms of why I'm in business, is to create a partnership with our clients and offer a really great service, as opposed to throwing a candidate at somebody and running fast in the opposite direction with check in hand.
And that's what I'm seeing with my clients, which is why I'm so excited about your model, which is effectively it's paying for an outsourced professional to act as your in-house recruiters, who get to know you, who can find candidates short-term, longer-term, and that you're paying a price for that. You don't necessarily get to recruit the candidate, for sure, but you're spreading that cost over time, which means that you can have that always-on model, which is actually what most clients should be doing, which is looking for talent, having those conversations, even if you aren't yet necessarily recruiting those people right now. So that's effectively how the model pans out, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. So you've got that expertise when you need it as well. So, and somebody who's working alongside and understanding as the business grows, and what's needed then. So it's very much that as a model.
Brilliant. So if this does appeal to people, and I would really encourage anyone watching this to at least have a conversation with Caroline, because it's a disruptive model that has the potential to really change the way you think about recruitment, I think. How can people get in touch with you?
So you can email me. So I'm Caroline, I'm Caroline at emerald-starfish.com, or you can phone me on 0116 2080 246, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Caroline Hunt.
We'll share all those details in the description as well.
Thank you.
But that's really interesting. It's you've hit on something really important, I think, here, Caroline, and thank you for sharing it with us. And if anyone wants to get any kind of testimonial, I'm sure I can share some of that as well, because it's a cracking business model. So congratulations, and thank you very much for sharing it.
Thank you. I mean, at the moment, over 95% of our work comes as a result of referrals. So, we're a bit of a secret, but we are, people, when they've tried it, like it.